What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another Fortnight on the Isle where, we cover everything that's been going on in my life and on the channels over the last couple weeks. This time around, I'm just going to say it's been a long week. It's been a long fortnight. I know that it's been a pretty long, crazy fortnight because, well, I know I went back last week and was like, oh no, I got to get one of these recorded before remembering that it had only been a week instead of two. So that kind of goes to show how crazy things have been. But other than that, there's not too much to talk about besides the fact that this is my birthday weekend and I have a 5-day weekend off from work, so that's pretty exciting. But otherwise, I've just mostly been busy continuing to read and not do the other stuff that I'm supposed to be doing at this point in time. So let's talk about some of that because there is a lot. For the bi-weekly reading, I'm just going to go ahead and say straight out the secret project that I mentioned in the last couple of these because I don't think I was able to reveal it in the last one of these updates was proofreading The Dregs of Empire and Other Stories for the Anderida Special Collection. And I had a great time with that. So that meant that I read The Dregs of Empire and I also reread Tales of the Sun Eater Volume 3. So if you want to hear more about that, I actually have in a few weeks a review of The Dregs of Empire coming out, and I also discussed it briefly in the monthly reading wrap-up and TBR, I believe, as well. Next up, I did get through plenty of other stuff so far, but most of that because these books are pretty short. The first thing that I was able to read this month was starting off my spooky season reading TBR with Night of the Mannequins by Stephen Graham Jones, and this was a fun and goofy book, all things considered. I did not hate it. I did not dislike it. I didn't love it, but a lot of that was because I had slightly different expectations than what it gave me, and didn't really follow through on sort of some of the promise that I think it was intending, which kind of soured a little bit of the experience. But what Jones was doing here was still good. I didn't think it was bad. It just caught me a little bit off guard in a way, and I think I'm a little bit more fond of it after the last couple weeks than I was after just finishing it, for example. Next up, I attempted Plush Boy, same author, Stephen Graham Jones. This is kind of the meme book amongst my inner circle of friends, and the reason I say attempted was because I read part 1. I wasn't really feeling it. I was not, again, I wouldn't say I was like hating the book. I just wasn't loving it either. It just wasn't really connecting with me, all things considered. And I had heard from a couple other people that it kind of takes off a little bit more in part 2 or by halfway through or something like that. So I read part 2 and largely felt the same, if not a little bit more underwhelmed than I did even in part 1. So I'm going to try to explain kind of what I was feeling with this just a little bit, even though I'm going to be explaining this in a video in a couple weeks. I would say I wasn't connecting with the characters at all, the setting at all, or really the kind of concept at all. Whereas Night of the Mannequins, I felt like I was into or on board with essentially from the very beginning. This one, I wasn't even on board with any of it halfway through. And even the stuff that I was supposed to get reactions from, such as gross stuff, I was just so disconnected from everything that even that didn't. I wasn't grossed out by stuff. The most I had was a minor gag over something absolutely disgusting. And that's how disconnected I was from the story, that even the really gross stuff was just like, why should I care, you know? So I did DNF it. It's basically my first intentional DNF up to this point. Technically, I guess my second. And that is also something I'll discuss in a video at some point in the future. Not necessarily any plans on that one yet, as I didn't come up with the idea of it until this book. So yeah, it just wasn't working for me. But what I did actually read and get through, I replaced it to console Patrick. I did replace that book on the TBR with At Night All Blood is Black, another very short book that he gifted me, and he was like, you know what, it's a better book anyway, go ahead and read that. So I did. And this one's really interesting. I'm not going to talk too much about it. What I liked the most about the book is that it kind of forces you to try to interpret it. It forces you to look at all of the thematic and subtextual material to even understand what's going on because of the last few chapters, which I really ballsy maneuver, but I heavily respect it. And because of that, I've changed video plans a little bit, but we'll get into that a little bit later in the video. Overall, I really did enjoy the book. I didn't like love it, but I think it's going to be one of the most memorable books. It would probably have a place in one of the most memorable books I've ever read, I would say. And then next up are just a couple things that I started. I did start my reread of Queen of Mid-Ashes by Christopher Rocchio. I thought I would get further in that. In fact, there was part of me that thought I might get, all the way through Queen of Mid-Ashes this week before the weekend, and I did not have time to do that. Work was really crazy this week. So I did start that, but not really anything to say there. I also started the read for the weekend, being The Road by Cormac McCarthy. I'm about a third of the way through at the time of recording, and I'd say that first 15% was terrible. It was so bad, and there are certain aspects of it that are still so bad, but at least I'm a little bit more into it now that I'm about a third of the way into it. I just hope I don't come out despising this book, because there are things about it that should be good, that should be really enjoyable, that if written by literally anybody else would be surely fantastic. But yeah, and I'm sure I'll talk about that more in the next reading update. That is for sure. But that is all of my updates for the bi-weekly reading. There was quite a bit to talk about there, unlike several of the last few of these updates. But let's go ahead and talk about the bi-weekly writing. This time it is also a little bit shorter, kind of similar to how it has been for a while. I only got about 500 words added to the outlines over the last couple weeks, but I am starting to get back to it slowly but surely, getting a little bit more of a pattern and a method down, and just getting a little bit of that information done. I know that going through this revision process is actually a little bit helpful, because not only am I developing that process, but I'm also able to plan for and go into the outlines for the other series within the sequence later on, like next year, for example, with the next trilogy, and do some of this stuff while I'm writing the outlines rather than doing it after, because it takes a little bit more time, more brain power, and I'm less inclined to do it. These revisions haven't been quite as, exciting as, say, actually writing the outlines. So that's the main thing that I've been struggling with, but I'm getting back into it. I hope to be done with this first trilogy of outlines, Silent Reign, and have them all done by 2024, preferably at the very latest. Then I can do the next couple series of outlines in 2024 and maybe even get further, but we'll see about that. As for the coming releases, there's a couple changes of plans and a couple other things that I'm actually really excited to talk about here. First off, on Tuesday, on the 17th, which is my birthday, I have a special episode of the Book Bench coming out. Not that it's like super crazy or anything, like my 100th episode where I reacted to old episodes. It's actually just a review of Les Mis, which is sitting right back there in the video. Is one of my favorite books of all time, and was my favorite book of all time for a short period of time. It was my favorite book of 2022 at the very least. And I decided, you know what? I want to review this. Why not just make it for the video that comes out on my birthday? So that's what I'm doing. Then this Thursday, I'll be doing a reading diary about Annabib. At Night, All Blood is Black. And I decided to do this instead of The Road, which was the original plan, was to do a reading diary on The Road. But I decided that this one warranted a spoiler talk discussion on it, because I don't want to go into all of that material in a spoiler-free review, because I would probably double or even triple the length of it. And that's not typically what I do with my reviews. So I decided, yeah, I'm going to do that as just a separate diary instead of The Road, and do it on that instead. So it kind of worked out. Next week, on Tuesday the 24th, will be my review of The Dragon Reborn by Robert Jordan, the third book in the Wheel of Time, spoiler-free one, since I've already done 3 spoiler videos on that, and then another one that discussed it in context with the other two. And then on the 26th, on Thursday, I'll have a sort of triple review thing going on. This is the plan, at least. Hopefully it will be able to happen, and if it doesn't, man, that's going to be a bummer. Triple review, I guess, of Stephen Graham Jones books. These two, plus another one that I will be reading this coming weekend. Yeah, that's basically the plan that I've got for there, is to kind of talk. Oh, I held up the wrong book. Oh, never mind. I held up the right books. I'm crazy. I'm going crazy. But yeah, I'll be talking about those 3 books, and even though this one is at the moment a DNF, I will still be including it in the video, because that's what I always planned to do. On the second channel, over the next couple Fridays, will be the last couple episodes of my Uncharted 1 Let's Play, the backlog coming out on that. And then over this coming fortnight, I'm going to write a review for the new Beartooth album. So I'll be able to do a blog and audio track for that over there, like I have for several other things up to this point this year. No more solid info on that until I work more on it. I haven't even started writing it yet, although I have a structure in mind by this point. As for entertainment talk, I did forget to mention this in the last one of these updates. So this was like 2.5 weeks ago now. I did watch the Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie with my brother, and I will say it was a fun time. It was really good. And quite frankly, it was made by the cast. If that cast didn't have as much synergy or as much chemistry as they did, I don't know if that movie would have sold itself as well. And I really appreciated the humor. It went back to, I'm going to say like the MCU style of humor, but back when it wasn't overdone or, overutilized. It actually really worked for the movie because it felt as if you were a D&D campaign kind of watching the movie. There were a couple moments where you could point at that, be like, I know exactly what role happened there to get that outcome, and, just kind of think about that stuff. And that's even as somebody who's fairly disconnected from D&D, generally speaking. I've only played it a little bit, maybe a maximum of 10 hours or so, but actually playing D&D personally, maybe 15 at most. And I've also only ever I've spent plenty of time listening to a D&D podcast, but beyond those, I don't really have much experience with it. But even without being super, engrossed in the lore and stuff like that, it was still a really fun time. It was dumb fun. Like I said, it was fantastic casting and generally a great balance of the tone with the humor. There were only a couple moments that I thought didn't sell themselves perfectly. Next up, I did get that platinum on Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1 Remastered. It was an absolute pain in the butt, and I kind of regret it. It was not... At least Modern Warfare 2 Campaign Remastered was more fun, and generally speaking, that campaign was actually better. It was more enjoyable in the first place, and the platinum was not nearly as bad on that one. So, oh well, I got another platinum, I guess. That's cool. And then, furthermore, in the gaming, I did actually finish my 100% of Power Wash Simulator this time. I said that I basically did that last time, getting all the achievements and completing all of the bonus and career missions, but this time now I've finished all of the bonus, all of the special missions as well, at least until the next DLC's release. So it took me 100 hours to do that. I've wasted 100 hours of my life over the last 2 years playing Power Wash Simulator, so that says something about me, and I'm not sure if it's good. Either way, I don't know if I really have any more interest in gaming for a while. It's kind of been disinteresting to me for the most part, which is probably a good thing because it means that I need to get more into that writing, and that's why I started doing a little bit more writing and working on those outlines again over the last week or so, was because I was getting sick of gaming. So that's a good thing. It's definitely a good thing. I need to work a little bit more on that, and since I have a blog to write, I need to get through that and also work on the Reign of Ash at the same time. But with that being said, I also discovered that Stargate SG-1 and Atlantis, all 15 seasons of those two shows, is included with Amazon Prime. So I might end up having a problem this winter where I spend way too much time watching that because I've never watched it in full, but my brothers have seen most of it and they really love those shows, and most everybody else loves SG-1, for example. I'm now I'm tempted to watch them. But either way, I don't know if I have anything else that I really need to say in this video. It's been kind of a busy fortnight. It's been kind of a crazy fortnight. I would like to relax a little bit more this time around, but I do have some other stuff that I need to get through, and I would like to get back to writing. I'm interested in doing some of that again, so that's what I'm probably going to do over the next few days since I have a few more days off. That being said, thank you guys for watching this update. As always, if you did, I'll be back on Tuesday with a review of one of my favorite books of all time, Les Miserables. I hope you stick around for that, and I hope you enjoy it too.